Okay, so in this video we will be testing the Wilson dampener. Just like in the previous two experiments, I've had the dampeners at 3 different positions on the string bed. So in the first experiment, I will have this Wilson dampener at the bottom of the string bed, resting on the frame almost. In the second experiment, I'll have it halfway up towards the bottom cross string, like so. In the third and final experiment, I'll have the Wilson dampener resting on the bottom cross string, like that. So we'll see if it has any effect on the serve speed and serve consistency, and we'll compare it to the previous two dampeners. That was the Power T dampener, the wide one, and the O dampener, the Pros Pro O dampener. So we'll see what happens. Let's do it. So the serves in percentage for this setup came in at 39%. The average serve speed was 70 miles an hour. The maximum was 97 miles an hour. And there was a disparity between the average serve speed on the ad side and the average serve speed on the juice side of 4 miles an hour. So something noteworthy. On to the next setup. So this turned out to be quite a powerful setup with an average serve speed of 72 miles an hour, a maximum of 126 miles an hour. I'm not sure how much you can read into that, but that is the data that was recorded. The serves in percentage was 37%, so not too bad considering how powerful it is. A setup that surprised me quite a bit, but we will look more into it as we do the setup ratings later. So this setup was the Wilson W dampener resting on the cross string, and from the data we can see the serves in percentage was 30%, the average serve speed was 63 miles an hour, and the maximum was 90 miles an hour. And reflecting on the setup, I thought the string bed felt a bit softer than compared to the previous two setups we've used. It's not really something I look for in a setup, so probably a pass for me, but if you do have wrist injuries, arm injuries, anything along that line, it might be the setup for you. It could be more comfortable than your current setup. Just give it a go, see what it's like. So let's move on to the bonus. In the bonus experiment, I'll be testing this setup with no dampener, and we'll be comparing the results with the setups with the dampeners. So let's get to it. setup saw an increase in the serves in percentage to 38%, It had an average of 61 miles an hour and a maximum ball speed of 89 miles an hour. In comparison to the previous three, I thought this one felt a bit softer. The average serve speed though is a worry, so probably another pass, but let's compare all of them. Out of all of the setups I tested, this was my favourite. It is the Wilson dampener at the midpoint, so that's halfway up towards the bottom cross string. And I liked it because I prefer setups with a bit of power. I'm not the type of player that's going to blast my opponent off of the court. So any type of help I can get from a setup, I'm going to welcome. It felt great, reasonably consistent. The serves in percentage is a little bit of a concern at 37%, but we'll continue to work on getting that number up. Out of all four, I thought it was the best setup, so let's move on to number 2. My next favourite setup was the low dampener, so that's the Wilson W dampener placed at the bottom of the string bed. The average serve speed with this was 70 miles an hour, so a little bit less than my favourite, but still more than enough power to hit winners. The serves in percentage actually came in higher at 39% compared to 37% on my favourite, but despite that, I still preferred the extra 2 miles an hour. It doesn't sound like a lot, but in a match situation, you feel the difference, or at least I do. But either way, both setups are good. They both can be improved, obviously, especially in the consistency department, but good setups nonetheless. So let's move on to the next. My third favourite setup was the Wilson W dampener on the cross string, and this was not good at all. If we take a look at the data, we had an average of 63 miles an hour in serve speed, and the serves in percentage was 30%. So terrible, to be honest. The string bed just felt too soft, which is unusual. I've used other dampeners and put them on the cross string, like the Pro O dampener, and it makes the string bed feel sharper or crisper, and so in turn you get a little bit more control, or at least what I perceive as control. But with the Wilson W dampener, that doesn't happen at all. I'm not sure why, and a lot of improvements need to be made for this setup to be made match ready. To be honest, I'm just going to discard it. I'd never use it in a match, but interesting to test anyway. So let's move on to the fourth setup. My least favourite setup was the string bed with no dampener. So this test was more looking at the string, which was Wilson Revolve 17, and looking at how effective it was without any dampener at all. So looking at the serve speed average, it was 61 miles an hour. That's not good enough at all. Came lowest overall in comparison to the other 3 setups, and it's definitely not for me. I'm not prepared to grind from the back of the court for 2 hours or even 3 hours in a best of 3 set match. I need a setup that's going to help me get forward, or at least put my opponent under pressure. And if we look at the serves in percentage at 38%, that was not too bad. It came second overall in the 4 tests, but even so, if it's consistency you're looking for, yeah, there's a lot better setups out there, and we will get to them at some point. So overall, really interesting. I enjoyed this test. We came away with 2 setups that were pretty good and 2 setups that were poor. So yep, there will be some more tests coming out soon. Be sure to check that out, and yeah, thanks for watching. Okay, so in this video we will be testing the effect of the Wilson dampener